Hi and welcome back to another video here on the Event Lighting channel. As you might have noticed, I have done a few interviews from time to time with people using GrandMA3 and where they try to explain how their workflow is. And this video is my contribution to that. I'm going to show you my workflow, basically how I have structured my file, how I change from one song to the other, how I do all kinds of different stuff, and especially how I use recipes in my programming. My whole show here is recipe based, or 99% of it is recipe based. I have a few things which is not, and we'll get into that. So basically this is my explanation of my workflow. You can do it differently. There's nothing in my show file which is chiseled in stone. I mean, it's not the way you have to do it. It's all up to you how you structure your file and how you do your stuff. But this workflow works for me, and this is the way I like to work. And let's just get on with it. So basically, what you're looking at now is my page over here, which is just my songs, and I have a page over here which is basically just my my presets, where everything is programmed from using recipes. So let's just start from the beginning and say, okay, what do we have here? I have my pages up here with all my songs, which one song is on one page. So basically this is my set list. If there's any changes in the set list, I would simply replace these pages. I would move songs back and forth to make sure that they are in the correct order. So when I press next page, it automatically goes to the next song, which is in line in my show file. This is the way I've chosen to do it. This is the way it works for me, and as I said before, you can do it differently. So let's just get started and say I have all these pages here. I have my pages here, and if I choose a page, I have a macro that can go directly. Maybe I could show it on the screen here. I have some macros which is going to go directly from page to page. So what I usually use is my next page, and I have up here a macro that can go straight to a song. And sorry, the songs are in Danish. I work in Denmark and I am Danish, so of course the band I do is Danish as well. So all these songs are Danish, but it will of course work in any language. So let's just have a look at my page over here, which is my preset page or group page, where everything is programmed from. I have all my all the fixtures from the house or from the local rig is over here in this section, and all my tour production is over here in this section. And I use recipes, as I said, and I use the selection grid for everything I do. So you would see some groups over here, which is a linearized group and a strobe group. So house, strobes, linearized, and house strobes, which is basically using the selection grid. So let's just clear here and see what that means. If I go into my 3D and down here, I have my setup, and usually what you will look at is this one from the front. And you can see here I have a rig imported with a lot of fixtures on it, and I have the option of going through this with worlds. I've stored this into worlds because it's a lot easier to make my selection grid work when I want to select a specific fixture. I use MVR import, or I always set up the 3D in advance, because it makes my workflow a lot easier with the selection grid. So if I have my all world here, I have imported an MVR file with a festival rig. But as I said, if I come out to a small venue and there's no MVR file, but there's only like 8 spots and 8 washes or 10 of each or whatever, I would always set up my 3D anyway, because I use the 3D for selection. But let's see if we have the way I structure this is that in my linearize groups here is basically just all my fixtures selected one through how many there is, and that goes for everything. If I clear this and go into my spots group here. Once again, I can tap through this, and this is what you would expect from any GrandMA2 file as well. If you select them in order, they'll just bump into order. My spots, this is my linearized group. My normal group is using the selection grid. And as you can see here, the selection grid takes into account their position in real life. So if I tap through this, you would see this one goes white now, and if I tap it again, nothing happens because it takes into account the space between them here. So next time they come up, nothing, they come up, nothing, they come up. And that is because I used the selection grid, but I didn't auto-remove the offset, or I didn't auto-remove the gaps. But if I turn these ones off, you can see it's going to look like this. And if I go through them, they're just going to come up like this. So that's all up to you, how you want to do this and how you want to work with the selection grid. And I can just put it back the way it was. So what do I do when I start my selection grid? Well, the first thing I do when I import a new show file, I might have deleted my entire patch of the house rig. So if I go in here to my patch, you can see I have everything sorted in local production, Dodo production, which is the band I do, and some global fixtures. And we're going to get into why I do these things here. But if I go into my local production and I go into my spots like this, you can see I have a whole bunch of 24 Viber profiles here, and they are all part of my show. So if we go into the spots here, you can see the ones we just had selected. If I store this now and I remove it, you can see this group is now empty and there's nothing in this group at all. So if I clear this and I say we use all these ones and we store this here and we remove it and we store it there and we remove it, now there's nothing in my spots file. So basically we just take this one and remove it as well and remove. So now I don't have any spots in my groups anymore. They are completely empty. So if I start a new show, and I just patched a new kind of fixture into the show, this is what it would look like. There would be nothing in the group. And what would I do? I would start by identifying the fixture numbers for my spots. They are 701 through to 724. And I would say 701 through 724 selected. And I would store that into my linearized group. My linearized group I use to make worlds. As you can see down here, I have my world with everything in it. I have a world with only my washes, only my spots, only my strobes, only my blinders, and only the house lights. And this is all done through a macro I use. So if I take my screen here and I open the small screen, you can see I have a store world macro here. So if I go into this macro, I edit it, you can see what it consists of. The first thing I do is I turn blind on, then I clear everything, and then I choose group house wash, and you can see house wash linearize is this one. So it simply looks for the name house spots linear. Sorry, this one down here, house spots linearize, and it adds fixture 50,000. And what is fixture 50,000? Well, if we go into the patch again, we just close this one, go into the patch, you can see I sorted everything here into fixture numbers. My local production, the one we have here, you can see all my blinders start at 100, all my front lights start at 200, all my strobes 300, all my washes 600, so on and so forth. But everything in this local production, everything that is in this group can be selected via this number here. And you can see my Dodo production and my tour production has fixture number 50,000. So basically I can go out and say 50,000, and that will select everything in my local production. Even some of the MVR stuff, some of the My Virtual Rig stuff, like the mannequins here and everything that has been imported. Everything that is in that group will be selected as well. And I need that because when I store my world, I want to select all the house washes like this, but I also want to look at my my tour production as well, because that is going to be a lot easier for me to see what's going on, to make positions in 3D before I get hooked onto the system. So just to finish the macro here, what I do is, once again, turn blind on, I choose my group house wash linearize plus fixture 50,000. That means all the washes that are put into this group here. So the first thing I do is just to populate the linearized group with the selection of all the strobes, all the blinders, all the spots, and all the washes. I put them in here, and then I use this macro. So group house wash linearize plus fixture 50,000, my tour production. I store it in world house wash. I override and I do not do any confirmation. So basically that just stores it in this world over here. Then we clear, do the same thing for the spots, we clear, do the same thing for the blinders, we clear, strobes, clear, and the front light. We clear everything, we turn blind off, and we select world number 1. So if I run this macro now, I should be able to, if we do it like this, I go into my macro again and I simply just run it, and you can see it just automatically does everything for me, and now everything is sorted into my world views I need. So basically that's what my world macro is doing for me, and it just makes the next process a lot simpler. Because right now, let's just say we imported a new MVR file. The only thing we did now is we put all the strobes in this group, all the blindness in this group, all the spots in this group, and all the washes in this group, run my macro, and then my 3D window here is going to work. So basically, right now, I need to select all my spots, and we need to put it into the selection grid. And what I do is just go to my spot world. I just, in 3D, select it here, and I put it into the selection grid, and you will see now that the spots here, they are perfectly aligned here on the x-axis, but they are not aligned here in the x-axis. And that is because when you use the 3D window, as I do here, perspective matters. So if you go into front left here, and you put that into your selection grid, you will see it takes into account the angle you're looking at the fixtures with. So what I usually do is go into my 2D front here, and then I put it into my selection grid, because it looks at it like a piece of paper. So just be aware that perspective matters when you use the 3D information to put into your selection grid. Using the 3D and the selection grid together is an extremely powerful tool, and we'll get back to that, how that works later in this video. Because you can, as long as you have an MVR information, as long as you have X, Y, and Z information for all the fixtures, they are positioned perfectly in 3D space, and you can use that in your selection grid over here, and that is really powerful. So now we have our house spots here, the group is empty, so the only thing I want to do now is store this into the spots, and now everything is ready to go here. So now I need to do my odds and evens. So what I can do again is just select it here. I can use this one to linearize it, and I can simply just on my console tab through like this. Select everything, and then I can store this in my odd spots, odd group, and then I can clear this, and I can say all my spots. Minus, can I use the minus here? Minus that one, and then I can store my even group, and there you go. And over here on my console, I have my spots odd and even here on 2 faders. They are also recipe based. So what you see is when you turn it up, suddenly the odd and even group work. And I just want to show you how that works. I go back to my all world here. I clear everything here. And now I can go into my playback, and the faders we just touched is the spots odd and spots even. So basically I can select this one, and I can go over here and edit my recipes. We'll get back to this window later. And you can see everything that is happening here is my spots odd group is turning on at 100%. My spots odd group, the same group, is going into white. Because if I have, say, a color in my spots, not only will they turn on, but if they have a color in like if they are all blue, they will also bump the color out when I tap the odd and even buttons. So, and that is all based on the information in the recipe, and the recipe simply looks at the odd group with a preset of white and at full. So that's basically the same thing the recipe is doing. The recipe doesn't care what's inside the odd group here, and we can just try by doing something funny. Let's say right now it's all my my spots on my even group here. This is this group. If I take all my washes and I store this into my spot even group and I override it, you can see suddenly it works on the washes, and the washes are on all the time. That's why it's doing this funny thing right now. So this is how it works, and this is really simple. So let's just take this one, say minus. Oops. We take all the house spots. We say minus the odd one, and we store this back into the even group here, and we override it. And basically, we now should be back to what we had before. So that's how recipes work. They look at a preset, or sorry, at a group, and then they look at one or multiple presets to be able to, then you can compose the way you want to work with the recipe. But let's go back to our show here and say, okay, if we want to make a new song based on all this stuff over here, I can, in this pages view here, I can simply make a new page and say store, and we can label it new song. And what I usually do is I just copy this information here, because I needed to create a, there we go, a timecode slot as well. And we label this the exact same way. And then we go over to our sequence over here. And this is all my sequences, all my faders, all my songs. I have divided them up into two, so everything in blue here is a song, and everything down here is my bump cues or odds and even faders and intensity stuff, smoke machines, all that stuff, even front light for the band. So up here I would create a new song, just store a new song. I would go into label, I would just copy paste, or sorry, paste the name, and I down here have all my appearances, and I would simply assign my main song sequence appearance to this one, so it has the same color. Now I can choose my new song here, and if I go into my playback, you can see this one is empty. If I go back to the previous song, this is where I always have the master fader for the song I am currently in. So if I go to next page again, I need to assign the new song we just made into this fader. And I'm just going to do that over here on the console. We go into this one. You should be able to see here. And I can say, we assign, can I do that? Assign new song? No, I can't do that. I do that on the console. I say new song. I assign it to fader 201, which is the one I use for everything. So if I go back to playback, you can see new song is now here, and it's ready to go. What we need to do now is, I just want to explain to you how I switch pages. So if I go back into my macro window, I have previous page and next page, and I have direct access to most of my songs here. So if I push a song here, you can see it selects the song, and it's ready. It's ready in Q1. It over here on the other screen, it selects the page, and if we scroll up, it selects the time code as well. So I just want to show you how this works. If I go into my page macro here, what I do is I'm in one page now, I want to change to the next one. So this one, first one, is going to the next page. It offs all my timecodes. It goes the executor on the page I just arrived at, the song we're about to play. The fader master 201, it goes executor 201 Q1, and the fader master 201, it turns up to 100% if it isn't at 100%, just to make sure. Then it backs up to the previous page. It offs executor 201. This is the page we just came from. And then we go forward again, so we are ready. So when I run this macro, you will see that it goes forward, backwards, forwards. And that's simply because it goes to the new page, activates what it needs to do, goes back, offs whatever it was doing before, and goes forward again, ready to go. And it takes, I don't know, point something seconds. Previous page works kind of the same way, just backs up, activates everything, goes forward, offs everything it needs to off, and then goes back again. So that's basically the same thing. If you look at it, you can see it's almost the same macro, it just does the opposite basically. My direct access macros does something different because I have to be able to go directly to a song, and this is where names are extremely important. Because if I go into this macro, you can see here, it selects a page by name. In this case, it just selects this page. Again, it goes executor 201 Q1. It offs all the timecodes, and then it offs all other pages besides page number 1, which is my template page where I put all my faders. I'll show you that in a minute. So it offs page 2 through all pages minus the page I'm currently on my way into. So everything else is offed except for the page that I just arrived at. And then it selects the timecode for this song, which is also based on the timecode name, which means I can move the timecodes around. And up here also means I can move the pages around because the pages is my set list, basically. So this is what my direct song macro does. So that works for me for some reason. That's really cool. And we had this macro down here. We already covered that with all the world stuff. And this is basically some of the macros I use. I have some off macros, some logins, some pre-show. I have if I've been working in some of the other songs. If we say we skip to next page and we go through this song, you can see something is happening in the 3D over here. And then I say, okay, this was rehearsal. Now I want to be ready for my show. I just turn my timecode off and I go into pre-show, and my pre-show basically just offs sequence 1 through everything. It goes to page 2, and that one it will always be where I start my show. And you can see up here I have a start page, which is basically just my all my faders, which is going to be on every page, and then page 2 will always be where the first song of the set is. So today it's this song, tomorrow it could be another song, but it will always be page 2 where I start. So basically that's what this one is doing, offs everything, goes to page 2, and it goes executor 201 Q1, which set everything up. In my songs, I do something different. So if you look at what I do in Q1, remember my macro always goes Q number 1 on fader 201. And Q number 1 would always be timecode in or start show, or which is always a cue with which is always the same as the last cue. My first cue is always identical to my last cue, which is the look that is like pause look between songs. So that means when I arrive at the last cue and I switch pages, because the two cues will be identical, you won't see any change in the output, which I think is really cool. Because then you can just set up everything and you can change page. Nothing is going to happen on stage. No moving lights is going to move or colors are going to change. If you want that, you can do that. It doesn't matter, but that's just the way I've chosen to work. Sometimes I don't do it if I need to go directly into a red song or whatever, and we came from blue. But usually, this is the way I do it. In my cue number 1, as you can see here, there's a lot of information. And the first thing it does, because my macro tells it to go cue number 1, in cue number 1, I set a lot of other different things up. I select the sequence, again, by name, which is the same page we arrived at, and the same name as the song. So basically, cue number 1, because it goes being triggered by a macro, inside cue number 1, I trigger selection of the sequence itself. So I get the sequence up in the selected window down here. You can see I select a timecode as well, also based on the name. And I top the timecode, also based on the name. In this, as you can see, intern tid, which means internal time, which is an internal timecode, because this song, they do play to a click, but they don't always start in the same place. It depends on the lead singer. She will start talking, and sometimes she talks for a long time, and sometimes she doesn't talk for a long time. But then she counts the song 1, 2, 3, 4, and go, and then I just need to press go at the right time. But then when I press go, this timecode starts, and because they are playing at a click track, the speed of the song will always be the same. So if I start it in the right place, everything is okay. And if you look at the 3D now, you can see everything starts to do all kinds of funky stuff back here. So this is basically how I use my internal timecode. And as you can see up here, they are marked in red, all the internal timecodes, which means I have to be aware that if I don't start it at the right time, the timecode won't be in sync with the song, and that, of course, is an issue. All the other timecode slots is normal timecode, where semicode arrives at the console, and it just listens for the timecode. And basically, if I go to the next page, you can see here it selects a sequence, it goes a timecode, this one, and the timecode is active right now, but it's just waiting for to receive timecode. So basically, as soon as the timecode starts, a few seconds before the song starts, it will jump back to somewhere here automatically, because it just listens for the timecode. So that's basically how I do this. I could put something else in it. You can see I have a go sequence gobo, which is called by name, cue number 3, and I go sequence gobo rotation, cue number 2. Because most of the summer we have been outside, and the band I work for, usually 90% of the shows we do in daylight. And in daylight, putting in a fine gobo usually just takes a lot of light out of the fixture. So what I have done is, if you look here on my playback, we can put it up here, I have on my rotating knobs, right here I have gobo and gobo rotation. So in the cue we just saw, it basically just activates these rotating knobs up here to whatever I want to set them to. The reason why I do it this way is I don't want it in my programming, because I want to be able to take it out if it's taking all the light out. Or sometimes I need to put it in because we are indoors or playing late or something, and it's dark outside. So now moving indoors, I could use gobo more, but I just gotten so used to this workflow. So gobos is something I usually do manually. I might trigger it in the cue, as I just showed you, but many times I'll just take them out or put them in or whatever. That just gives me the flexibility, and because I use recipes all through the songs, which I'm going to show you in a minute, no gobo information will ever be there, because it's always triggered by these macros instead, or command line macros. As you can see here, I have the same for Prism. I can, if I have a Prism, if I've chosen to program it in, I can activate it, I can make it rotate, slow, fast, off, take it in, take it out. I mean, it just works really cool. I have the same for all my washes. I have a possibility of zooming them in, going neutral, like this, and just making them large. And the same for my profiles as well. I use that sometimes depending on what fixture I get. Sometimes if you get a wash light, an LED wash light, and it's not very bright, zooming it in a little bit will help. And it's all based on recipes coming from this page over here. So let's have a look at how recipes are set up. So we just made a new song over here. We can go there, like if we go to previous page there and we go one page forward. Let's see what we have here. We go into our playback. You can see it selected our new song. Oh, it didn't select the new song. We need to set it up for that. So if I just go into this one and I go into my command macro here, I can say select sequence new song like this. It's now part of the command line. So if I say right now it is not selected, I go to the previous page and I go one page forward. You can see now it automatically selects because the macro asks it to start in Q1. So that's one way of doing it. Let's just do something here. We say store Q2 through, let's say, just 20. And now it just stored a lot of empty queues here. So if I need to set something else up here, I would do that now and say, okay, what did I do? I selected a sequence. What do I need to do now? I need to select timecode new song, oops, like this. And if I go close this one down, you can see right now new song is not selected here, but if I go one page back and one page forward, it now automatically selects that timecode as well. So let's go back into this one and say, is there anything else we need to activate? Here we could say, okay, in this case we need to go sequence gobo Q2, and we can say go sequence gobo rotation Q2. And once again, if we look at this up here, we have our gobo and gobo rotation here. If I once again go into Q1, you can see they now activate in the position I want them. So that's basically just how I do it. Your workflow could be different. You can put your gobos all the way into your recipe in your sequence. That's fine. This just works for me. So let's say we have all this song here and we just need to rename it. We say start cue, start music. We can say verse 1. We can say chorus. We can say break. We can say once again, we can say verse 2. We can say chorus again. Let's just make this really simple. We can say guitar, solo. Oops, that doesn't work. Like this. And we can say back to verse 3, just for the fun of it. So now we have like the skeleton or the structure of a song, and we haven't done anything with it yet. But basically, if we just turn off the entire console here, you can see the 3D is now black. We need to start building this song. What I've done is I made a edit recipe window, because when you work with recipes, you can turn this one, click this one up here. You can go into mask and you can say show recipes. Recipes are now part of this window and you can start to work with it. But there's so little space here. Working with it like this is terrible. So I just made a window with everything open. I just used the entire screen for my recipes. So what I do is I can select the queue, and when you select the queue here, the recipes will actually follow down here. So as I said, my start queue and my end queue are always the same. So let's just start building start and the start queue here. So I'll just show you the workflow, because working with recipes can take some time. until you get into it. There's a lot of options on copy and pasting and cutting stuff out and reselecting groups. So let's just start working with it just for the fun of it. So we right click here in the selection, or you just press and hold on the real console. You can simply just press and hold, and this box will open. And you can see here on the PC, because I'm using a different console, everything locks up here. But let's just do it on the PC right now so you can see what is happening. I right click, it opens all my groups. And you can see my groups are, all the strobes are in sequence, all the CLFs are in sequence, all the auras and so on. And what I changed from the show I did the summer and to moving indoors now, I reordered my groups, because I used to have my washes here, my odd wash, my even wash, and then I had my left and right over here. It was just easy to work with. Then I had all my profiles like this, my main group and my odd and even and my linearized down here. But when when you open this window here, everything is mixed together. So then you'll have strobe, wash, spot, something, and then you have to search for things much more. So what I've done in this one is just all groups of one type will be in numeric sequence. So you see 1 through 4 is my strobes, 18 through 21 is my blinders, and then that means that everything comes up here in a better order. So let's just start working with this one. We say in this case we need to select all our washes, and let's just put in a demo preset of 100%, and then we say go to 1. You can see everything just turned on now at 100%. So now we can, instead of putting in another group like this and choosing them again, we can simply just select this line here, Control C, Control V, and then we just change the position to position number 1, for instance. You can see now they moved. We can do it again, paste in, and we can say color of blue. So that's all my wash lights. They are ready. They are set up in at 100% in position number 1 and in blue. So let's say we want to do something similar to something different. I need to set up my side light. I have some auras or some spiders or whatever it is in the side to light up the band. Right now I can copy this line. I can paste it in up here because I want it above. So I copy this line again and I choose all my auras here, which is my side light. I put it in a position of, where do we have it? Sidelys, which means side light in Danish. So now they are in position. I copy this one and I just set the dimmer at 100%. And you can see now the side light turned on, lighting up the band. What we need to do again is, I have some more stuff I need to put up on the band. So we just copied and pasted everything, and we simply just choose the CLF. Where do we have them here? That's the CLF on the stage. We need the different ones. We need one for Anders, our guitarist, and we can change this one. Select this one for Rudi, and then we just select 100% for both of them. And you can see now, it's kind of hard to see, but they are actually on right now. Once again, we can copy both of them here, and we can choose a color. Let's just put it into CTO maybe, and that is all from this type. Then we have some of the production on stage. They are 2 light blinders but full color, so I won't need a position, but I would need to turn them on, and we could use them in blue as well. So what I can do now is, of course, I can just start over and choose them and build everything again, but I can also just choose this line and then control click this line as well, copy the 2 lines, and we can simply just paste them in down here, and we can simply just change the group to all Roxas, and you can see the back 2 light blind is just turned on. You might have noticed that I have 2 dimmer presets at 100%, and the first one 100%, this one is actually 100%. I use that for everything I program, everything I do, besides the 2 light blinders, because they are extremely powerful, and I want to be able to program them at a lower intensity in the songs, because especially when we're indoors, we need to take the intensity way down of the main look when they're just in a color like they are now, and then still have the option of bumping them to 100%. So if I would program everything at a lower intensity when I used my bump colors, I have these odd and even stuff here. If I have some of the effects running, if I set everything down to a lower intensity, this one, where I really need the power, wouldn't be at 100%, which I want. So what I do is I use another dimmer preset, which is P100, which is just program 100. I don't know why I called it P100. So this is, if you look over there on this screen here, I have my universal preset here, which is P100, and all my roxes refer to this preset in their main look position. So what I can do, if they are not powerful enough, or you know, I need to take them up or down depending on if they are too bright, I can simply just put them at 60%. I can just store this in this preset here, and it will change through the entire programming. So let's say they are too powerful now. I put them at 20% maybe. I just turn the highlight off. If you see this is 100%, I just take them down to 20, which is more than enough indoors, and we just store this, and everything where I use this P100 will change during the show. So that's basically my floor production, and I need to put in my other colors as well. So I take all the roxes again, including this line. As you can see, I use these lines as separators. Otherwise, everything gets extremely cluttered in here because there can be a lot of information. So what I do is I just try to keep everything organized where the same type information for the same type of fixture is next to each other. And you can see all the colors up here in the other window. It really helps me a lot, especially when you are looking for a specific fixture in here. Using the colors just helps you get better organized. So in this case, I would once again just copy this and paste it in, and simply just change the content. And in this case, I just want to use the CLF stage. And if you look up here, when I push it, you can see all my CLFs on stage turned on. And I have some funny buttons here I use for them as well. So this is basically how I would start my show. And when you then start your next song and everything here is set up the way you want it, you simply go into the queue, you just mark everything, you copy it, and then you switch page to your new page, and then you paste it in, and your two queues are then identical. But what I didn't do now is take into account that I need my profile spots as well. I usually don't turn on my profile spots in the first queue. I usually just set them up and make them ready in the first queue, and then I activate them when the music starts in queue number 2 here. So let's do that. I go down into my CLF stage, and I need a position preset and a color preset. So I'll just take these two, take these two and copy them, and then I will go down here, and I will paste them in. And now you can see I didn't put in a break, so I'll just do that, copy paste, and then I select this one and I go to my house spots like this, position and color, but I didn't turn them on. So this could be queue number 1. Everything is set up, everything is ready. You can see it's pretty well organized. You can find stuff. So basically that's how I do it. So let's move into queue number 2 and say, what do we need to do now? Well, we could say we need to turn on the spots. So we just select the spots, we select the dimmer, and we put them at 100%. And when I go this queue, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but they actually do turn on. Just take the gobo out, they turn on in blue. And if we go back, it's because we gave them the information of blue down here. Let's say we want them in white. We simply just change the color to white, and it should track to the next queue as well. Recipes track like you're used to. They track from queue to queue. You can see everything is in queue 1. Everything is on but the spots. Then we turn on the spots, but everything, of course, stays up there as well. Let's just take the gobo out again, and you can see all the spots. So This is basically how I would start a song. And let's say we put it into verse number 1, and we need to do something. So let's look at what could we do. We could take, let's just put the roxas up again in a higher intensity so we can see them better. We just put them at 100 and we store them at 100 there, and we merge, and now they are full power as well. So let's say we want to do a movement on some of the profiles, for instance. I select all my spots like this. We could start by selecting them linearized, and I go into my all preset, and here I have my predefined phasers. That's where I chose to put my predefined phasers. You can put them anywhere, and you can see all my predefined phasers starts at, I think it's 108, and everything above that here is something I modified myself or put there myself for some reason. So let's say we need them to start moving in a circle, and we can do that by going into, I'm sure it's here, circle template, and if we go into that queue, they start moving, and they start moving, of course, based on the predefined phaser or the copy I did or whatever I put in here. You can do everything you want in here, and you can put everything in a preset. You can do your movements and your shuffle and everything. What works for me is I just have it standard. I just have the normal circle. Everything circles the way I want it to, and then I modify it in here. You can put in an MA trick. You can just make a new one directly in here, and then it will refer to the MA trick. You can reuse the MA trick just as you could on GrandMA2. That's the same thing. But because I'm doing a band who always plays the same songs, I don't use the MA tricks. I don't need to modify it. I usually just use the line here. So what I want to do now is just work with the phase. The phaser now is just everything is in sync. I want to put it 0 through 360. So if I push this one, you can see now they still do the circle, but they do it from 0 to 360. I could have put in my wings, but I want to show you something first, because this one is my linearized group. And my linearized group is just 1 through to 24, so it doesn't know where the moving light is positioned. So using a wing right now would be LX1's first fixture and LX3's last fixture. And that is going to look really odd. So what I can do now, I can replace this one with the house spots. And the house spots, if you remember, is based on the selection grid. So look at what happens when I push this one. You can see now it starts to be more in sync, and you can see the 3 spots in line with each other starts working together, because that's what we set up in the selection grid. And now I can go in and give it a wing of 2, like this, and I can go into phaser transition and I can mirror, and now we have a very nice effect based on the selection grid. And this effect will work, or this phaser will work on any fixture you put in. As long as you use the selection grid, it will know the wing of 2. It will know exactly how everything is positioned. So basically, this is how it works when you have everything in line, as I did in my group. Technically, we could go in here in our grid here. We could select our spots group. We could use the front view here. Remember, I told you it was based on the perspective. We could zoom in like this maybe, select them again, and not remove this and then put it in like this. You can see now they are actually spaced a little bit different. And if I store this into my existing spot group, it will change the way it looks a little bit. It's very hard to see. If we clear this, oops, there might be a little bit of difference. It's not much, but a little bit. But that's one way to do it. I just go back to my top here, put it into the grid again, oops, do like this, and I once again store this into my spot group. So that's basically how I do this. Let's go back to the show build here and say, okay, now I have everything moving. Let's say in the chorus, I needed to stop moving and maybe go into the lead singer or something. I select them again. I say I want to go into position, and I want it to go down to this position here, and you can see nothing happened. And that is because we need to stomp the effect first. Oh, sorry. You can see we need to stomp the effect first. So if I say copy and I say paste, and we choose this one, down here I have a few stomp things here. I have stomp dimmer, stomp position, and stomp color. And if I stomp this one, you can see now it points straight down to the lead singer. And you can see it actually took some focus information, it took some zoom information. And that is because I wanted, I put zoom information in this preset up here, selective. Because if I move, I need to change back to the world number 1. If I take this information here and I put all my spots, you can see the zoom information, and if I take it to the guitar, it takes a zoom out again. That's another powerful thing of recipes. Let's say in this position you always wanted to zoom in and be very tight around the lead singer, but if you move it somewhere else, you need a different focus. You could, of course, put in some of the information from the zoom down here, and you can put it straight into the recipe, into the preset. The recipe looks at a group, and it looks of the content of a preset. And you can put anything into the preset. You can even put a phaser effect into the preset. It will still work. And that's another very powerful thing about recipes. So that's something you can do with presets as well. Put anything into it. It's all up to you. It doesn't matter what's in it. It just looks at it. As long as it's compatible with the fixture you're using, it's going to work. So that's really, really cool. Let's get back into the recipe here. You can see we are now at the lead singer. And let's say in the chorus here we needed to start doing something. We can, again, we just copy this one there, and we just say this one here. Oops, we just want to delete something here. Delete that one. Cool. We can just make a new line. We copy this line and we paste it in up here. There we have something different. And we can just say, okay, we want to use the linearized group here. We want it to be down here in our phasers. And let's say we need it to be intensity snap. So now you can see it turns on and off and on and off. And it's the same thing down here. I needed to phase from 0 to 360, for instance. I do that. You can see now it starts working. And one thing I have done in my little show here is I have attached Speedmasters to all the things I use. I have Speedmasters for dimmer, position, and color, which is basically what I need for my phaser effects. So if I go into my intensity snap here, I just double click it, go into phaser overall, Speedmaster. In my dimmer, you can see it takes the intensity speed. And in here you can choose something different. Right now, if you choose something different, it doesn't do it. And I think that's a bug in the software at the moment. Or maybe it's because I renamed them, it can't figure it out. But you can always just roll this one and choose the right one, update your preset, and now it should be attached to your sequence. To your phaser effect. Which means you can see it's running right now. I can now take my Speedmaster and take it a little bit down, go all the way up. And this is something I usually do in the beginning of the show as well. So let's just have a quick look at that. I could do that in here, and I could do that with this one. Let's say we just tap this out and say yada 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 yada. We need it at a speed of 136 beats per minute. So we right click here and we say master 3.1 BPM at, what did we say, 136. Oops, like this. So when I start, go to cue number 1, you can see my Speedmaster now is at 36. If you look right here, it can be difficult to see. As soon as I go to cue number 1, you can see it jumps to 136. So that's the way I control my speed on my intensity phases, on my color phases, and on my movement phases if I have a circle somewhere. And you can see if I go back, we just take the GoPro out again, and we go into the queue where they are moving. I have the same one here, move speed. I can turn it all the way down, I can turn it all the way up, depending on what I want to do. So I always just use that to control the speed, and everything is built from just a normal standard 60 BPM, and then I just tap my way into my song, set the tempo, and usually just trigger it in one of the first cues. I can always change it, but then I know that the starting point is going to be somewhat correct. So that's how I do that part. So let's go back into our song here. In our chorus, everything is moving. Now we stopped it, and we started this intensity stuff down here. And let's say we want to shuffle it a little bit. We go into shuffle here, and we just type something crazy. You can see now it's happening. It's shuffling and everything is cool. So let's say we need to do something with the floor production as well. We can go a few cues back and say we wanted to change the floor production. It's blue now. Maybe we need this song to be red. The first cue needs to be blue, and then we change everything to red. So let's go up to the first cue and see we need some of our rocks fixtures down here. We take this group, we take all our washes, we take the color here, and we take the color there, and we go to the CLFs and the color there. Maybe that's enough. Should that be enough? Yeah, that's cool. So we copy these 3 lines here, and we go down to the verse, to the start music. We paste them in, and once again, I love to have a space between them, so I just say space there, space there, space there. And that's especially if you start adding other stuff into it. Having the space is fantastic. So I have the roxes, the washes, and the CLFs. Let's just take a different color and put them into red. Now everything goes red, and that's easy. So that's one of the parts where it's really fast to work with recipes compared to the normal way. But again, depending on how you work, I am hoping and waiting for a faster workflow for recipes from MA. I'm sure they're going to update the recipe workflow moving forward. So basically that's it. Now everything is red, and we go into the next song, and everything is still working the way we want it to. But let's say in the chorus here, everything starts flashing. We need something else to happen. This is, let's say it's a very high tempo. So we just remove this line here, because they are the same type. And we are looking at it now. We need, maybe we put some kind of phaser on the rocks in the background. So we go down here, we select all the roxes, we go into our phasers here, and I have created a rocks, which is normally, if you turn them on like this, you will see it's a normal DWE 3200 Kelvin, but they can actually do all kinds of colors. So if I choose this one, you can see it's a different white. It's now a 10,000 Kelvin between that and red. So that's basically this phaser here, and I don't remember if it's attached to a Speedmaster as well. No, it's not, but I could of course do that. But I can also control the speed in here if I want to. But let's just say I need this to phase again 0 to 360, and you can see it's doing that right now. And you can also see it's not choosing the 2 fixtures on top of each other at the same time. So we can fix that by going into, I think it's block here, and set a block of 2, and now it will always run simultaneously with the top and bottom, if that's what you want. And then we can also easily go in and say we want to shuffle this a little bit, and it's going to do like this. But say that's not enough. We want the washes in the roof to do it as well. Let's just zoom them in a little bit. We can do that here. Now they are zoomed in. And let's say we just did it for the roxes. So we copy these 2 lines, the empty line and the rocks line. We paste them in. And this is really cool. You just select the house wash. And now they're doing the exact same thing. Once again, this is a very, very easy place to work with recipes, because you build something, you build a line for one fixture, you modify it, And then when you're ready and everything is the way you want it, you simply just copy the line, choose a different fixture, and it just works. That is just amazing. So let's say we have a break here, and this is one of the places where it's really slow. Since you don't have queue only in recipes, you have to stop everything if you want to do something particular in a break like this, and then you have to start everything again, which is time consuming. So let's go into the break here and say, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that, let's say, everything on stage needs to flash white, but in a different phaser. So we need to say, what are we using right now? We are using the stage CLFs. No, they are not active. We are using the house wash, yes. The roxes, yes. And the spots, yes. They're doing different things. So into the break here, we paste them in. And once again, we need to make the lines between them. Copy that, paste, paste. Okay, all the washes needs to be in just white. So we select white here, and you can see nothing happened because it's in a phaser, so we need to stomp the effect. So we copy the line, we go into all, and we simply just stop the color. And that didn't work. We stomp the color and we go into preset of white. Maybe we need to cook the preset. I'll show you that in a minute. We just do the same here. We put that into white. And we say, we stomp the color. And I know it didn't happen yet, but it will in a minute, I promise you. And then we take the spots and we just stomp the dimmer. That's because I need to change to the right cue. Now it works. Then we say, okay, all our CLFs in the background, we need to change them as well to stomp. We don't even need to stomp it because they are just on. So we can say we copy this one and we select all the CLFs in the stage here, and they also go into white. Let's take all our spots and move them to a different position. We move them into the audience maybe, like this. And then we need to have everything flashing like crazy. So let's go up, and we had something flashing up here. We can just copy this one and go down here, and we paste it in. And you can see they start flashing right now. So now we can just copy this one, and we can just copy this one actually. And we can paste it in here, we can paste it in here, and we can paste it in up here. And then we simply take this group. Now we need to make sure we take the right one, this one. And we change this to CLF stage. This one we change to, we change to all the roxes. And this one we change to all the washes. And now you can see everything is flashing the way we want it. And let's say, okay, all the spots are doing funny. Now they're actually okay. All the washes are doing funny. We need the washes to be a linearized group instead. So we say the intensity snap. We choose the linearized group, and everything is kind of cool now. So this is just our break cue, and we need to go back into the verse. What we can do now is simply just go up into the verse, and if we did everything correct, we could use it down here, but since we need to stomp everything first, and once again, this is one of the places where it gets very time consuming. We could basically go up into this one, copy this, because this is where it comes from, I'm pretty sure. We have the music here, the red. The verse looks like this. So basically, it's a sum of this cue, and this cue, but we should be able to just take some of it, and it might help us a little bit. We put it in like here, and verse 2, then we need to stomp the washes, and we do this, and we simply say stomp, and what is it? It's an intensity stomp, like this. Then we need to stomp the roxes in the background, just do like this, paste it in here. Oops, we just delete this line here. And we need to make sure that this is the correct group. So now they're stumped. We need to stump the CLFs. We copy this one and we stump the dimmer. And now they're stumped. And now we can look back into our song up here. And how does verse number 1 looks? We have this effect running here, so we can basically take this and copy, go down to verse number 2, and we can paste it in here. And now we are almost back to, I think we are back to the state of the 2 Qs. So if we go to Q3, it does a little hiccup, but then we go to Q6. And it looks really weird. That is because we needed to this one, and that is this one. It breaks, it goes to the audience. We need to change the position. House spots, we do that here. We take the position and move it back to, I think it's position number 1 we are at. Oops. We copy this and we paste it in above this one, because otherwise the circle doesn't start. And if you sometimes see something really weird like this, sometimes it helps to cook the preset, the sequence. So we say cook sequence 1029, and we merge. You will see now it starts moving again. And the reason why it's zoomed in is because I at some point chose this preset with a zoom information in it. Basically, we could put it into this one, zoom medium. Let's just do that just for the fun of it. We say all the spots. We put it into a preset, focus preset of zoom medium. And you can see it's back to what it was doing. But here, definitely having some sort of cue only, of some kind of summary of the things going on. Because when we want to recreate the state of verse number 1, we need to add this group of recipes to this group of recipes to this group of recipes to be able to get to the state of the fixtures. So some kind of summary button would also be nice, where you simply could push a button and it would simply show you all the recipes that are active to reach the state you're in right now. So you could copy that, paste it somewhere else. That would be really beneficial. But I hope we're going to see some of the changes in a new version of recipes on MA. Let's move on. We have a chorus here. We could basically just go up and copy the state of the chorus here. So we say copy. We go down here and we paste it in. And we go down to the queue like this. And it looks almost the same. So depending on how you build stuff, you can definitely copy and paste. Maybe you need to add some more information in the first one to make sure you reach a good point of copying and pasting. But you can do that. So let's say in the guitar solo we need something different. And this is also very, very clever on the recipe side. So let's say we need to stop everything again. And if we go back, we can see, let's just go back to verse number 2 in this down here. So we say copy everything, go down to guitar solo, paste everything. We go down to solo cue like this. And let's say we need the house spots to stop moving around. So basically we should be able to delete these two here and they stop. And then we could put them in another position, because I want to show you something really, really cool. Let's put it into the roof position. Why is that doing so funny right now? So there and there. That could be why. You see, we still have this line here. We could basically just take a new one here and say, just copy this one and paste this one. Yeah, I've actually tried this before. I didn't see this. If you have some information here, it's going to do something really odd. So probably if we clean this up, it will do the correct thing. Yeah, you see it right there. that's I've made that mistake more than once. So that is my bad. Sometimes if you have something really weird going on, which you don't understand, oops, that was not good. We go in here and we say, oops. There we go. We wanted to delete that line there. Let's say we have a position right now and we go into wings of 2 and we mirror. It will sometimes do really, really weird. It will look backwards, or it will do something really weird, and that's probably just a matter of cleaning up this stuff. Of course, if there's something weird happening here, it wouldn't necessarily know what to do, and that's why it can do funny. I chose the wrong line. Let's try it again. Let's go in wings of 2. And then let's mirror. You see, that's the problem. It starts to mirror something, but since it's a static position, it does something unexpected. I definitely tried it before, and I had to figure out what it was doing. So beware, that's a dangerous thing. It's not the console, it's actually doing exactly what you wanted it to. It just looks really weird. So that's the guitar solo. Let's say that we have a guitar here and we move it into the solo position. You can see there's, if I highlight it, you can see there's 6 washes going into the guitar, which is cool. But the cool part of using recipes is you can put anything into this one as long as you have a group of fixtures here and some sort of position here. It's going to do the right thing if you use this one. So let's go down and say copy paste, check this one, and we say we have this one here which is Anders, and we choose a position like this one. It's going to go into that position, and I can copy and paste it, and I can choose a different color, and you can see now these 6 go into his position. But let's just clear everything, and then we go into our recipes, into our 3D, into our setup, and into our washes, which is the one I used. Let's say we need these ones to do the same thing, or instead we can simply select them, we can linearize them, and we can store them into this group, and we can override. So now the content of this group is different. So the only thing we need to do now is we need to select them. We can very quick do a position. We just select next here, and we go into our position directory. I'll just move this up. Next one. Next one. There, and then once again we could basically select them here, and we could go into focus and we could zoom them just a little bit. There we go. So now we can store the content here into to his position preset, and I stored some zoom information as well. So I store this, sorry, I need to press and hold the store button because we need to mask it in. We turn the input filter off, put it into his solo position, and we override whatever is in there in the first place. And now if we start our song again and we tap all the way through down to our guitar solo, you can see now on the 3D we changed the content of the group, and we changed, or we adjusted the position, and that's basically all we need to do. Everything else comes from recipes. So if we go down to our recipes again, oops, you can see we put it into his solo position, and we put it into white. And we can put it in whatever we want. We could basically take this one and we could say copy paste, and we could basically put it into where we go, we could put it into an amber color or whatever, put it into blue, it's going to do that. And the point is, it's so easy to replace something. If you have some specials, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 specials I use, and that's just a different selection every day, depending on how big the rig is. And that is really, really cool. So basically we just delete the blue color here, we just want it to be white, and then we can move into verse number 3, and basically just copy and paste everything from verse number 2 down to verse number 3. And we go into this one, and you will see everything does correct except for the solo position we just used. And we basically just we don't even have to touch them again, we can simply just say all the washes. We copy that, all the washes, and we say they need to be red, and we need to, we can just copy this one and put it into the position we came from, which is probably position 1. Yeah, and we're back. And if we did something with the zoom information, we can change it here and go into go into focus, and just put it in medium, which is basically where it came from. So this is how easy it is to do a special of some sort, and then just get rid of it again. And no matter what you put into this solo position up here, it's going to take it. And you can change that every day. You can say, today I want it to be the solo position, I want it to start strobing, for instance. You can put that in, that's all up to you. And you can change that day by day, and you can change the fixture selection day by day. There's no cloning, you just take your 3D window here, you go into your setup, and you simply just choose the fixture you need to use today, and you just replace the group, correct the positions, and you are done. That is so easy. So basically, this is how I would build a song. It takes, of course, some time, but the more you work with it, the faster it goes. So let's get back to, let's say that the last cue here is where my song ends. I would copy and paste everything down there so the look looks correct. And then I would go into my command line, and I would say go macro, macro, and then I would say next page, and then as soon as I go down here, now we don't have anything on the next page, I just want to show you what happens when right now if you look here in my show, you can see here it's just going to move to the next page. There's nothing on it, so nothing is going to happen. So this is basically how I use recipes in my song sequence. But we also have everything else on the console, which is not songs, which is bump cues and everything else. I go into my playback here, and if you look at the 3D, I would have this, I'll just clear this console, go into cue. You can see I can always bump these ones in. I can use this one back and forth. I can do them top and bottom. I have the washes. I have odds and evens. I have some of the, if I turn the gobo off again, simply running through. And everything, again, is based on recipes. So it's so easy. Let's say we use this one. We select this one, select that one. We put this into our edit recipes. You can see this is basically just containing 2 cues. You can see it runs here. The first cue takes all the roxes and changes the response of the dimmer. Because the roxes emulate DWEs, they can be responding very slow. I want them to respond very fast here, and I built a response preset over here, which I've just done once, then I can refer to it. So here I put it to response LED, which means it snaps, it doesn't fade between anything. I turn it on at 100%, and the color preset is white, and you can see that I have a delay time from 0 to 0.3 seconds. I have a group of 4, which is basically, that could be basically just be a group of 3. This is leftover from my summer production, you can see there. And then that's basically it. That's what they do when they go in, and out they simply just release the dimmer and release the color information again, but in the same pace. They do it in the same pace as the other ones. And then the Q1 simply just goes into Q2 after 0.2 seconds, and then you get this result back and forth. What you can do now is say, okay, I want something else to happen here. I want all my blinders in the ceiling to do the same thing. And right now they aren't doing anything. So let's see how easy that is. We go back into our, we simply just go to our show here. Let's say we have all our blinders here, and they are, if we look over in the selection over here, they are taking into account where they are positioned in 3D space. And I know in this one I use the, let's just see if we can pull it up again. I use the, there we go, all rocks group. So basically this effect works on all roxes because that's what's in all rock group. So what if I put something different into that rocks group? Let's say all our blinders, we just clear to be sure. We select all our blinders and we store that into all rocks, and we merge and we clear. And now it works on everything. And that is really clever. And maybe I just think the 3D is a little bit behind. Usually they actually go in sync with each other, but I think the 3D is struggling a little bit to follow here. Maybe if we off everything, see if it changes. Nah. And maybe I actually didn't do it on my roxes in my view down here. If I select all my rocks fixtures and I put it into my grid, you can see that's the problem. So if I were to do like this, and I was gonna store the group here again and merge, now it should definitely be different. I try it again, you can see now it works. I mean, it's not impossible to do this effect on MA2, not at all. But if you go in and use the recipes, it is just so easy to do on GrandMA3 using selection grid and the 3D information. As long as you have the 3D information, building these kinds of effects are easy. This is a phaser, just an effect on the x-axis. You can do it on the y-axis, you can do it on the z-axis. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It is so easy to work with. So this is basically how my all my playback section here is built. Everything in my blinder, odd or even, is the content of my blind odd and my blind even group. Let's do something different. Put the spots into the blinder. We merge and we clear this. Put this one and we merge. Now you can see they are part of it. So that's how easy you can introduce something different. And if you really think about it, when you program your show, you can actually take into account fixtures you will meet later, as you of course do on MA2 as well. But you can now put it into a group, make sure the group is ready, make sure the recipe is set up and is part of your show file. As soon as you encounter these fixtures, you can just put them into your group and you're done. It is so easy to work with. So this is how I work with recipes. In the next episode, I'm going to try to delete my entire fixture here, or fixture of the entire rig, import a new rig, and see how easy it is to set up, how much cloning we need to do, because if I delete all my fixtures, you can see in here, in the patch, I do actually have a few global fixtures down here. So usually, I might delete all the strobes, I might delete all the washes, and then I will simply just clone the information I need from another fixture. If it's a wash fixture, I need the color information, I need some zoom information, I need some intensity, but the intensity is universal. So basically I just need 2 or 3 things to make it work. And again, the profiles, I need some gobo information, color information. I will usually never clone position information because I need to redo the positions anyway. So usually I won't clone that. So sometimes I simply just delete everything from this the patch here, and we'll look at that in the next episode. We delete everything, we put in a new MVR, and we try to set everything up, do the cloning we need, but that is in the next episode. So this is my workflow, or some of my workflow on GrandMA3, and recipes and selection grid and everything. Be sure to like and subscribe the video if you enjoyed it. I know it was very long, but I hope you got something out of it. So I hope to see you next time on the Event Lighting channel. Until next time, have some good and grand GrandMA3 programming. See ya.